February meeting of the Wood County Board of Supervisors to order. Can we please have Supervisor Roser come forward for the invocation, followed by the pledge of allegiance.
Am I supposed to use this?
You don't need it.
No, I don't. I don't need it. So I wanted to wish you a happy Valentine's Day, but you beat me to the punch. I think one of the coolest things about my role as a state legislator is being able to give the invocation before the state assembly. So I was honored a couple weeks ago to be called and asked to do the invocation before the State of the State address by the governor. And so I am going to do the same prayer today that I prayed over the state assembly and our state. It was a very honor. Okay. So. Honorable, distinguished attendees and esteemed guests in this, the people's house. If you so desire, please join me in prayer. O Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. Savior, Redeemer, Creator. Emmanuel, Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. To him who sits on the throne and to the Lamb be praise, honor, glory, and power forever and ever. Forgive us for our failure to seek your guidance and direction in all we do. Forgive us for failing to affirm our faith in God as sovereign Lord in our state and nation. Humbling ourselves before you, we acknowledge that we first need to lay before you our own sins, accepting your mercy and grace so we can go forth with mercy and grace toward others. Thank you for the opportunity to serve and for the families who allow that service. Thank you for safe travels for all present. We are a blessed people, and for that we are forever grateful. Thank you that we can approach your throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. And now we ask for your blessings upon everyone within these walls and listening over the airways, as your will is sought in all that we do. Meet needs known only to you. Cover this place with your Spirit, Lord, as we consider the state of our great state. We ask in the precious name of Jesus for discernment, wisdom, and strength over the week ahead. In our feeble attempt to come before your throne, we are reminded of your teaching on how we should pray. Our Father who art in heaven, holy is your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Roser. That was very nice. All right, first I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. Motion by Lightnum, second by Fry. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Our excusal today is Chairman Plimmel. We have no resignations, and for appointments, we have to the Health and Human Services Committee for a 3-year term, Mary Jo Wheeler. We'll do this as a voice vote. We have Supervisor, I'm sorry, I'm so blanking on your last name right now, Hamilton. Second by Supervisor Zerflu. Thank you. I know what it is, and I just wanted to say Brad.
That works.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, do we have any public comment? Again, any public comment? Seeing none, we have no acknowledgements or recognitions today. And we do have a referral from the Winnebago County requesting the state of Wisconsin to review and revise its policy on foreign ownership of farmland by entities part to adversarial government, so has been referred to the J&L committee. So let's get into our packet. On page 5, we have the minutes of the operations meeting from Thursday, February 7th. Pages 6 through 16, the staff reports from the county clerk, the treasurer, and the wellness coordinator. And starting at page 17 to 38, we have 21 resolutions. We will take them all individually. Just kidding. With your approval, we'll be taking these all as a group.
Okay. First one will be Resolution 23-2-1 to amend the 2022 budget for property and liability insurance for higher than anticipated premium expenditures. Fiscal note to transfer $36,465 from available balance in contingency to the property and liability insurance budget. At the time of this request, funds available in contingency are $528,013. The adjustment to the budget totals $36,465. Resolution 23-2-2 to amend the 2023 UW Wood County Commission capital projects budget to include expenditures for projects that were in process but not completed as of December 31st, 2022. Fiscal note, no cost to Wood County. The source of the funding is unspent funds from previously approved capital projects debt funds. The adjustment to the budget totals $93,802. Resolution 23-2-3 to amend the 2022 debt service budget for interest and issuance costs for capital projects that were not anticipated during the original budget process. Fiscal note, no additional cost to Wood County. The source of the funding are transfers available and not anticipated to be spent in the debt service principal and capital projects paying agent and fiscal budgets. The adjustment to the budget totals $325,597. Resolution 23-2-4 to amend the 2022 budget for Human Services Norwood Health Center and Edgewater Haven programs for transfer of available appropriations to functions where actual expenses are recorded. Fiscal note, no additional cost to Wood County. The additional appropriations needed for transfers are available and are not anticipated to be spent in the appropriations to be transferred out or are funded with additional unbudgeted, unexpended funding. The adjustment to the budget totals $930,000. Resolution 23-2-5 to approve the use of American Rescue Plan Act ARPA funds for the additional expense for Capital Improvement Plan 20-22-005 in Human Services Norwood Healthcare 2022 budget. Fiscal note is $30,000. Resolution 23-2-6 to amend the 2022 Norwood and Edgewater capital projects budgets to include expenditures that were approved but not included in the 2022 budget. Fiscal note, no cost to Wood County. The source of the funding is previously approved ARPA funds. The adjustment to the budget totals $256,000. Resolution 23-2-7 to amend the 2022 budget for coroner for additional revenues and expenditures unanticipated during the original budget process. Fiscal note, no cost to Wood County. The adjustment to the budget totals $45,500. Resolution 23-2-8 to amend the 2023 Communications Capital Projects budgets to include expenditures for projects that were in process but not completed as of December 31st, 2022. Fiscal note, no cost to Wood County. The source of the funding is unspent funds from previously approved capital projects debt funds. The adjustment to the budget totals $40,000. Resolution 23-2-9 to amend the 2023 radio engineer budget to include 2022 unspent funds for equipment expenditures that were not able to be completed or obtained during the original budget process. Fiscal note, no cost to Wood County. The source of the funding is unspent funds from the 2022 radio engineer budget. The monies will be expended in 2023. The adjustment to the budget totals $74,624. Resolution 23-2-10 to amend the 2022 budget for emergency management building number identification function for additional expenditures that were not anticipated during the original budget process. Fiscal note, no additional cost to Wood County. The source of the funding is unanticipated revenues from local government charges. The adjustment to the budget totals $66,350. Resolution 23-2-11 to amend the 2022 budget for emergency management admin functions for additional expenditures that were not anticipated during the original budget process. Fiscal note, no additional cost to Wood County. The source of the funding is unanticipated revenues from state aid. The adjustment to the budget totals $6,400. Resolution 23-2-12 To seek county board approval to amend the 2023 Wood County Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection grant budget for unanticipated state aid monies to appropriate those monies to the DATCAP grant budget expenditures. Fiscal note, no additional cost to Wood County. The source of the funding is unanticipated revenue from DATCAP. The adjustment to the budget totals $32,410. Resolution 23-2-13 to seek county board approval to amend the 2022 Wood County 14 Mile Creek grant budget for unanticipated state aid monies and to appropriate those monies to the 14 Mile Creek expenditures. Fiscal note, no additional cost to Wood County. The source of the funding is unanticipated revenues from the Wisconsin DNR. The adjustment to the budget totals $11,850. Resolution 23-2-14 to amend the 2022 budget for UW Extension projects for the purpose of funding higher than anticipated expenditures. Fiscal note, no additional cost to Wood County. The source of funding is unanticipated revenues from the UW Extension's Project Revenue Clean Sweep and 4-H Community Youth accounts. The adjustment to the budget totals $22,295. Resolution 23-2-15 to amend the 2023 Transportation Economic Development budget for additional Rural Economic Development Plan implementation expenditures that were not anticipated during the original budget process. Fiscal note, no additional cost to Wood County. The source of the funding is unspent funds from the 2022 Transportation and Economic Development budget and totals $49,082. Resolution 23-2-16 to amend the 2023 Transportation and Economic Development budget to include 2022 unspent funds for an economic development grant project for the Village of Port Edwards that they were unable to complete in 2022. Fiscal note, no additional cost to Wood County. The source of the funding is unspent funds from the 2022 budget of the Planning and Zoning Department and totals $10,000. Resolution 23-2-17 to amend the 2022 budget for Justice Coordinator Drug Court for the purpose of funding higher than anticipated expenditures. Fiscal note, to transfer $9,340 from available balance in contingency to the Justice Coordinator Drug Court. At the time of this request, the funds available in contingency are $528,013. The adjustments to the budget totals $9,340. Resolution 23-2-18 to amend the 2023 Parks and Forestry Department budget to include 2022 unspent funds for playground equipment replacement and Dexter County Park swimming pond construction. Fiscal note, no additional cost to Wood County. The source of the funding is unspent funds from the 2022 budget of the Parks and Forestry Department. The adjustment to the budget totals $150,000. Resolution 23-2-19 to amend the 2023 Information Technologies Capital Projects budget to include expenditures for projects that were in process but not completed as of December 31st, 2022. Fiscal note, no cost to Wood County. The source of the funding is unspent funds from previously approved capital project debt and ARPA funds. The adjustment to the budget totals $160,981. Resolution 23-2-20 to amend the 2022 budget for information technology, PC replacement, for expenditures that were not anticipated during the original budget process. Fiscal note, no additional cost to Wood County. The source of the funding is the non-lapsing PC replacement designated fund balance. The adjustment to the budget totals $7,139. Resolution 23-2-21 to amend the 2023 maintenance capital projects budgets to include expenditures for projects that were in process but not completed as of December 31st, 2022. Fiscal note, no additional cost to Wood County. The source of the funding is unspent funds from previously approved capital project debt and ARPA funds. The adjustment to the budget totals $131,384.
Motion by Supervisor Roser, second by Supervisor Dry. Any discussion?
Could you repeat those, please?
Drop dead.
All right, let's vote. Supervisor Wagner?
Aye.
And that passes unanimously, 18-0. Moving on, we have another resolution from the Operations Committee.
I'm pretty impressed you guys all stayed awake during that presentation. I read through the first two and practically fell asleep. So this will be Resolution 23-2-22 to authorize out-of-state training and travel for the Finance Director. Fiscal note, $1,000 for travel expenses and registration fee.
Motion by Supervisor Hamilton, second by Supervisor Clendenning. Any discussion? Let's vote.
Supervisor Wagner?
Aye.
And that passes unanimously 18-0. One more resolution from the Operations Committee regarding the Workplace Violence Program, which is on pages 41 through 46.
And this will be Resolution 23-2-23 to formally adopt the Workplace Violence Prevention Program. Fiscal note, none.
Motion by Supervisor Hamilton, second Supervisor Brey. Any discussion? All right, let's vote.
Supervisor Wagner?
Aye.
Unanimous again, 18-0. Moving on, we're on page 47 in your packet, which is the minutes from the Health and Human Services Committee meeting of January 26th. This is pages 47 through 48. 49 through 50, we have the North Central Community Action Program board meeting minutes from December 12th. Page 51, the December 22nd meeting of the Veteran Service Commission. Page 52, the January 9th meeting of the Veteran Service Commission. And then on pages 53 to 64, we have the staff reports for the Health Department, the Human Services Department, and the Veteran Services Department. Pages 65 through 68, we have the January 9th minutes from the Wood County Public Safety Committee. And then pages 69 to 91, various reports from the Sheriff's Department. Which brings us to our next resolution on page 92.
This will be Resolution 23-2-24 to grant a political leave of absence to Wood County Sheriff Sean Becker for the term of January 2nd, 2023 through January 4th, 2027. Fiscal note, none.
Motion by Supervisor Hamilton, second Brey. Any discussion?
Seconded by?
Supervisor Brey.
You're making my minutes really easy. Okay.
Supervisor Clendenning.
Thank you. That the committee, at the committee level, they discussed the fact that they would like this to explain why we're giving a leave of absence away to somebody that just got elected.
Supervisor Zerklu.
Could you repeat that, Supervisor Littner? Or
It's not just me.
Lighter Clendenning.
thank you. Repeat your question, please.
Happy Valentine's Day to you too. Anyways, yes, you was going to have Corporation Counsel explain this resolution.
And I did, sir. May I go? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Castenholz, would you please refresh Supervisor Clendenning on our discussion, please?
Good morning, everybody. Morning. So the employee policy handbook that's administered by our Human Resources Department provides under leave of absences, specifically political leave, and I quote, "The Wood County Board of Supervisors may grant a leave of absence to any employee assuming a county elected office for the period of time up to one term of that elected office," close quote. And so when I was contacted by the sheriff in regards to that, whether that would apply to his second term, I said yes it would. In my opinion, and I checked with Kim in regards to that, because my construction is that you can only get one term at a time, and so you couldn't permit someone to run for sheriff or some other office, local constitutional office, and say you can come back to general employment status after you're done. Instead, it's one term at a time that you folks have the right to assess this. That gives you the most power to decide how you want to handle each individual case. So I hope that answers the question or any questions we have with regards to this. If not, I'll try, or possibly Kim can respond to anything else.
Supervisor Rosen.
Yes, so I just wanted to add something. So my understanding is that we do this because if by chance he would lose the next election, then he could return to employment from the county without losing benefits. Is that the purpose of doing this? I'm seeing some heads nod.
Yes.
And I just wasn't sure that everybody understood that that was why we give the leave of absence, so that they don't lose benefits during the time that they're elected, and then if they lose, they come back to county employment.
Supervisor Hamilton.
And also, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, and also that the new sheriff, whoever that would be, has to approve it too. If he doesn't approve it, I don't know if there's an appeal process for him or not, but the new sheriff also has to approve it according to the, at the bottom of the referendum, or resolution.
Any further discussion? Great, let's vote.
Supervisor Wagner?
Aye.
And that passes 17-1. Page 93, we have another resolution from the Public Safety Committee.
This will be Resolution 23-2-25 to cancel stale dated checks as recommended by the auditors. Said checks from the Wood County Jail inmate account as per the Office of Wood County Sheriff. Fiscal note, as per the resolution, the total to be canceled is $51.70.
Motion by Supervisor Hamilton, second Supervisor Lineham. Any discussion? Let's vote.
Supervisor Wagner. Yeah, Wagner.
Aye.
And that's unanimous, 18-0. Moving on, pages 94 through 98, we have the SEED committee minutes from February 1st. Pages 99 through 101, the joint meeting of the North Central IFAC Board of December 1st. And then pages 102 to 112, we have staff reports from Extension and the Land and Water Conservation Department. Page 113 to 135, we have the results of the county-wide nitrate study from 2017 to 2022. Supervisor Lighton.
So thank you, Madam Chair. Got an email from Shane Mukerfenning this morning about 7 o'clock that said he'll be listening. I mean, I can't see if he is or not, but the SEED committee asked if I would address this 22-page study in your packet. So supervisors, relax. I'm not going to talk about 22 pages, and I'm just going to look at 2 of them with you. So proceeding with that, this was a 5-year from 2017 to 2022 county-wide well study looking at nitrates in rural wells. So the 2 pages that I promised you that I talk about, if you want to go to 113, that one's probably showing right now on your iPad. Let's concentrate on the high-end number of contaminated wells first, you know, the bad news from the study. So go to the 3rd column from the left, which is nitrates above 10 parts per million. I'd like to talk to you for just a second about what that can lead to. So that level of nitrates can lead to birth defects, the most notable being something called a neural tube disorder during pregnancy. Someday I'd like to talk to you about that. That's pretty telling. Another thing it can lead to is blue baby syndrome, which is basically a lack of oxygen in the blood of a baby shortly after birth or in that first year or so. And then going on from there, what can this lead to in adults is thyroid problems and colon cancer, among other things. So still on page 113 then. I'd like you to look at Grand Rapids, which would be the third one down in column 3. 164 wells, over 10 parts per million. If you look at column 4, that's 8.1% of the total wells tested in the town of Grand Rapids. And then look at the town of Port Edwards, which would be the fourth from the bottom. 151 wells over 10 parts per million, and that's 18.2% of all wells tested. That's 1/5 of all the residents that live in that town. Now, wells. And so what we're saying here is that probably more than one person is drinking from that well. Not just one person drinking from that well. So you add up the 164 in Grand Rapids, worst case, the 151 in the town of Port Edwards, worst case, you're up over 300. You think possibly more people than one person drinking from that well. The numbers start getting large. Okay, so let's look at the other end. Let's look at the low end, the good news. So this would be page 114. That's the second page I said I'd talk about. Alphabetically, Saratoga. Just have to roll my screen here a little bit. Just 91 wells, over 10 parts per million nitrates, which is 2.5% of all the wells tested. And look at the number of tests there. Of the 10,000 in this 5-year study, 3,706 wells. Now that wasn't all Wood County doing that. That was the people of Saratoga doing that also. And so with this 5-year nitrate study then, the first time I saw it was Wednesday, February 1st, so 14 days ago. It came before the seed committee in exactly the same form that you're looking at it right now. And so that evening, I went to the Saratoga Town Board meeting, on which I serve as a supervisor, and I shared with them these results. And so what I said to them at the time is this: 91 affected wells, over 10 parts per million. What does that mean for Saratogans? Okay, so what it means is that 91 people could get sick from nitrate poisoning from drinking from that contaminated well. 91. But that would be just one single person drinking from that well in Saratoga. 182 people could get sick if there were 2 occupants, a couple drinking from that well, 182. 272 people could get sick if there were 3 occupants, 2 parents, 1 child. And remember this hits children the hardest and first. Contaminated rural wells. 364 people if 4 occupants. That's 2 parents, 2 children. Well, what's normal, right? Demographically for the United States. So it's just not 91, it's 364. So anyway, you get the idea. 4, 5, 6, 7 people drinking from a well. The numbers are bigger than you think. And that's not the worst of it. If you cook with this water, so let's say you boil pasta or rice or macaroni and cheese or whatever, that intensifies the effect of the nitrate poisoning. Boiling the water doesn't make it better, it makes it worse. If you bathe in that well water at high levels now, probably up around 40 parts per million, it's absorbed through your skin in 18 seconds. Just think about that for a second once. That's an awfully short shower. So if you think you're safe on municipal water, let me share this with you then. Think again. Because where does Wisconsin Rapids get its water from? Well, wells, you guessed it, in the town of Grand Rapids, one of the highest levels of incidence. And so what we decided that evening at Saratoga, what the Saratoga town board decided February 1st was that knowing this, and because not many residents attend our board meetings in Saratoga, knowing this, we had an obligation to share our knowledge from the 5-year study in Wood County with the citizenry. And we decided to do that in our biannual newsletter, which will be coming out in the spring, probably in a month or so. And so that's what I would say to all of you then. How many Wood County residents come to our 9:30 third Tuesday, second Tuesday, I guess, board meetings? So here's the numbers again, just from pages 113 and 114. I totaled up that column, the third column. That would be 573 Wood County residents in that 5-year span were drinking from nitrate-contaminated wells, 573. But that's assuming it's one person per well. It's not. You know, it could be, what, 4 people? 2,300? And so I ask you this then. Do we have an obligation to tell our residents in Wood County what we now know, the results of the study? Do we have an obligation to tell our residents what we now know? I think we do. Of course we do. As a county supervisor, I would say to you, go to your next municipality meeting, town, village, city, and tell the supervisors there to tell their residents. Go armed with this 5-year study. Zero in on your town, your village, your city. That's the next 20 pages as you go through this thing, as you roll through it, which I'm sure you've done. Go armed with that, but don't stop there. Tell your state assemblyman, and one of them sitting right in front of me has been really good with this. After the HHS meeting a couple weeks ago, Donna called me and said, I want all the data you've got, and I gave it to her. So tell your state assemblyman, tell your state senator, tell the whole legislature. And now this is going to be repeated over and over and over again in 72 counties. Tell the governor, tell the Wisconsin DNR and DADCAP and the federal EPA, tell the Attorney General, tell the news media. But therein lies the truth, right? The news media knows. They've been telling us this for years, for a decade or more. And by the way, all those other people know too. And so it finally does this. It comes back to you, the results of this study. We know. We now know. 5 years of data. We now know who's going to do something about it. And that's the crux of the matter. Okay, so I think what it says is that, I would attempt to answer your questions. I don't know if Shane's going to help me or not. But is there anything from the pages 113 to 135 that anybody would like to ask about them? Okay, so, yeah.
It seems like it's worse in the farm country up there by me.
If you look at, I spent a lot of time looking at this. It seems to be east of Marshfield, and then the other area of really high concentration is on our extreme southern border in the town the town of Port Edwards.
I guess my question is the farm country attributing it to it? Because we're mostly farm country up there where I am.
Yeah, so if you
repeat
look...
the question so that they can hear it online.
You should use the mic.
Get into your microphone, please. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't.
You had it a second ago.
No.
Push it on.
Yes. It seems like it's worse in the farm country up there by me, and I'm 12 miles east of Marshfield, Auburndale and Mellisore.
And section by section, looking at the study, that would be bore out by the study's results. More of the study is information from the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, and what they found too, and what the professors that have worked on it there have found is that, and these are rough numbers, but probably 95% of the problem can be attributed to exactly what you said. We quite simply just have to reduce the amount of nitrogen that's going on to farmland. And that's the crux of the matter. The other 5% that you would look at can come from failed or failing septic systems. It can come from exuberant landowners who want their lawn to be the greenest in the subdivision, and they put fertilizer on 4 times a summer, which is way too much. I mean, there are other sources, but I think what you said is accurate.
Supervisor Clendening.
Thank you. I've been working with clean water and pesticides and nitrates for many years. You've probably heard this story from me, but when I was going to high school in Plainfield, Wisconsin, in the 50s and the 60s, we had, at the Plainfield truck stop, it was pregnant women and children under 12 do not drink the water. And it was 43 parts per million then. And that's back then. So what attributed to that? Well, a lot of it, they say, come from the Little Plover River area. So a few of us went there and did what we could to try to get them to clean up the Little Plover River, because many people in Portage County. But it's still bad in Plainfield where I live. And so I was very eager to go out when the water testing was being done by our Land and Water. And I went and had many wells tested, had them tested. Some I knew the results of because they told me, but otherwise I didn't know the results of. And in the town of Grand Rapids this is. And of course, where I lived, my well alone was 3 parts per million. But what was so surprising about that was neighbors around me were 0. There was few that were north of me that were over the 10 parts per million. But what I attributed to in these subdivisions is septic tank after septic tank after septic tank, and the water that is collected. And people with immaculate lawns, they're out there trying to get it greener and greener every year. And so some of them even just burn up their lawn from too much nitrate. But you can't tell them that, you know. And I was glad to see this study come out, because I'm not worried about it where I live, but I certainly am in areas. And we have one farm in the town of Grand Rapids. And they do irrigation and nitrates. But around that farm right there now, the nitrates ain't that high. But it's surprising how you get it. I blame a lot of it on when we're in subdivisions on residential homes and using what they use for their lawns and gardens. It's been a problem all my life, and I'm still living.
Supervisor Leitner and then Supervisor Roller.
I can take questions now. I just have a little sum at the very end that I'll take 10 seconds for, but go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just want to make a statement, because when I learned this, I met with some people in Madison. And I think the biggest way to use this is there is so much emphasis on PFAS right now that everybody wants to put money into PFAS. And I'm trying to make the point that we can't ignore phosphorus and nitrate as we fund PFAS research or PFAS mitigation or any of that. So that's my biggest concern is, and Chairman Plemmel said it perfectly, we don't want PFAS to hijack all the money that we need for phosphorus and nitrate mitigation. So I would encourage you all, as you talk to people, to talk about the big picture and not just one slice of the pie, because we have some work to do, and it's not just with putting $100 million into PFAS research or mitigation, but we've got to address phosphorus and nitrates too. So clean water is a big picture thing, and we have to make sure that we don't ignore any piece of the pie as we work to that end. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just looking around for other questions.
Supervisor Wagner?
This is Shane.
Oh, there you go. Go ahead,
Just
Shane.
asking permission to address the board if I can.
Yes, please.
Okay, good morning everybody. I'm glad to see my technology is working from home. I apologize for not being there the first week today. Isolating myself here with the nasty COVID bug. First of all, I would like to extend a thank you to the Polk County Board, that body, for allowing me to do this study 5 years ago when I came to the county board and asked for funding to do a full countywide grid pattern of the entire county. I think it was very successful. I want to say we are now close to 11,000 data points across the county, which is a great representation of what is out there. There's a few gaps. We've got some unpopulated areas and things like that where we don't have a lot of data, but for the most part, I think mission accomplished. I would like to talk in relation to the data a little bit. I wasn't real surprised in putting this report together, the results. Obviously, we have some hot spots. We also have some very pristine parts of the county as well. And I just wanted to make a couple of statements regarding sort of where we go now. The reason I put the report together the way I did was I wanted to compare what the Central Wisconsin Groundwater Data Center is reporting and seeing statistically countywide, specifically for Wood County, because they got custodials of a large part of the state of Wisconsin and data collection that comes through their lab. But you can go to the Wisconsin Water Web Viewer and get your county's information, your section by section information for any county that has done water testing through that entity. The reason I did my report the way I did was to compare our findings with what the UW Stevens Point well data represents, and very, very similar results. It was quite shocking how similar they were. Their distribution of townships is a little different than which you can see in the report. Where do we go from here? Definitely wanted to say a few comments regarding that. Knowing what we know now is that we definitely have some hot spots across the county, and we definitely have some areas that are not of high concern. So moving forward in the future, being part of a 6-county collaborative that is studying this exact same thing over the course of the whole 6 counties, the Central Sands region. Moving forward, I think we're going to be focusing our efforts more specifically on some of these hot areas. In my opinion, it doesn't pay to spend a lot of resources in the areas that do not have high nitrates, as those are not going to change rapidly. Not going to say they won't change over time, it get worse, but as of right now, it doesn't pay to put effort into those areas because they're not going to change rapidly. The areas where we are having significant nitrate levels and we're seeing increases, those are the areas we're going to want to focus. When I say focusing on efforts, what am I talking about? Well, there's all kinds of research yet to be done. Some of it is starting to pick some of these hot spots and really breaking down exactly where the impacts could be coming from, whether it's agricultural, whether it's sanitary septics, or it could be sandpoints versus drilled wells. When I talk about sandpoints versus drilled wells, the impact can be significantly different because we're dealing with different depths to aquifers, well construction, the way things are constructed in the first place. And I don't mean to say this in a negative way, but basically sandpoints are sort of an unstandard way of drilling wells. It's an economical way, but it definitely could lead to a quicker contamination source, especially if you've got impacts coming from septic because of the shallowness of the well and so forth. So as we move forward, we're definitely going to be looking at these types of land impacts and trying to then target some of these areas with, put the boots on the ground, so to speak, and actually start to target some of these land uses, producers, whatever, to try and do some pilot projects, try and implement some conservation practices that could potentially, limit the change or nitrogen applications, things like that, that could potentially make difference. These things did not get high, these wells did not get high overnight, they're not going to change overnight. So we gotta start small.
Shane, do you
So
mind?
again, I wanted to, go ahead.
Do you mind if I cut you off? Supervisor Lightnum had something to say, and then I think we might need to wrap it up for now and maybe address this at a CE meeting.
Sure, I was just going to cut this off, but I also understand I would entertain any questions, things like that.
Okay, thank you.
So, Madam Chair, then in summary, when Shane was talking about 11,000 data points in Wood County, the Central Sands Groundwater County Collaborative that we belong to, that's 80,000 data points, 8 times as many. There's been studies in Kewaunee County. Remember when Kewaunee County visited this board? The SWIG study coming out of southwestern Wisconsin. There's 2 UW-Madison studies. Our legislators are going to have data like you wouldn't believe from all of this. I guess the last thing I'll say, and then I'll sit down, is that the Central Sands Groundwater County Collaborative, sometime in early March, will be having a statewide announcement of all of these studies that I've talked about, and then what Shane talked about, where they're going. That data will be housed at the Wisconsin Geologic and Natural History Society in Madison, and that meeting that I was talking about at the Tri-County High School, one of the dates was March 2nd, one was March 11th, we just don't know yet. But that would be the other thing for all of you to look for. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And this is addressed every month at the CE meeting also, so if you would like more information, that would be a great place to further the discussion. So we will move on. Pages 136 through 137, we have the Citizen Groundwater Group meeting of January 16th. Pages 138 through 141, the staff reports from the Planning and Zoning Office. Pages 142 to 143, we have the Planning and Zoning Annual Report, their plat review. Pages 144 through 146, the February 3rd meeting of the Judicial and Legislative Committee. Page 147, only one notice of entry and claim this month. Not a lot of snow. Pages 148 through 155, we have the staff reports for the Child Support Agency, the Clerk of Court, Corporation Council, Criminal Justice Department, and the Register of Deeds. Pages 156 through 158, the February 2nd minutes from the HERC Committee. Pages 159 through 168, the staff reports from the Highway Department and the Parks and Forestry Department. And page 169, we have, I believe, our final resolution for the day.
This will be Resolution 23-2-26 to create one FTE position at the Highway Department Asphalt Production Facility effective March 1st, 2023. Fiscal note, anticipated 2023 wages and benefits total $75,586.55.
Motion Supervisor Hamilton, second Supervisor Clendenning. Any discussion? Let's vote.
Supervisor Wagner,
Aye.
And that passes 17 yeses, 1 no. Pages 170 to 171, we have the February 6 minutes from the Property and Information Technology Committee meeting. Pages 172 through 177, the staff reports from the IT department and maintenance. Pages 178 through 180, the ADRC minutes from December 8th. Pages 181 through 182, the Central Wisconsin State Fair Board of Directors meeting minutes from January 16th. And finally, pages 183 to 185, the South Central Library System Board of Trustees minutes from December 16th. Any more discussion? All right. Our next county board meeting. Oh, I take it back. We're going to have a quick update on the jail project. We can keep this pretty quick because we'll be doing a meeting downstairs right after this also.
Are you going to be our clicker?
I can be a clicker.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
We will keep this brief. As Laura has stated, we do have a committee meeting right afterwards. We've got some progress photos we want to share with you, but just for those of you that are unable to attend the committee meeting, just want to give you a brief update. As you recall, when we bid the project out, we had some categories that needed to get rebid. We also did an early start while we were doing state review through code compliance and review from the state. And there were some questions in regards to where the budget would stand with all those elements. I can tell you right now that we're going to report to the committee. We were able to get through the state review. We were able to get through the rebid process and maintain and all the unsuitable soils that we're running into without touching any contingency. So we have favorable news to share with the committee here after the meeting. So with that said, I just want to show you some progress photos here. For those of you that haven't been able to be out on the parking lot since the groundbreaking, it's changed a little bit. I think when you drove up, you'll see that there's some notable changes. When we're to this point or this far into a project, a lot of times county board members will come to me and say, when are we going to see the building? I'll let you know that there's a lot of work that takes place under the ground at this point. And those elements are things that we want to show you here. There's a lot of work that takes place that you don't see, but obviously you need to have that firm foundation for the structure that you're building here. So we're just buzzed through some of these. You can see that the demolition had taken place of the existing building there. Parking lot renovation is obviously in place. You can see the rebar pads that were being constructed there before they put them into the forms. Obviously the forms that go into place. We did hit a fair amount of water, and to kind of let you know some of the unsuitable soils that we had. We did several borings throughout the campus before we finalized the design. And borings, again, you're picking a spot and you're able to find what the subsoil looks like. We did hit a fair amount of groundwater, and we did hit a fair amount of unsuitable soils and some goodies that were stored in the ground. So we've been dealing with those elements as we move along. So you'll see that the aerials that are here kind of give you a visualization of some of the fill that has been brought in. You can see there we've got the footing ready for concrete with the rebar and all the elements that were there. We did hit a couple of underground LP tanks, which we did have all the soil tested around that. Contaminated soil has been removed in compliance with landfill requirements as well as the tanks. You can see that this will give you kind of an image of from the south looking north there. The large pads that are there are column pads and footings for the structure as we go vertically. here's some of the stuff we've been running into. There's been organics and old posts and wood structures and concrete and all that good stuff that we have discovered with the equipment when we're excavating it. So obviously those are not soils that we can work with for under our foundation, so those elements have been removed from the site. Here is a drone shot from the Sheriff's Department. Thanks for that. Their drone shots are much better than ours. They've got better equipment, but very cool photos. Here's one early morning, kind of give you an idea of when the crews have been starting to be able to get things poured. Some wall forms going up, rebar in place, weather protection. After they pour them, they put the weather protection there. And we've got some more drone footage, some grading as we bring in the fill. And prepped there for scaffold for the masonry stair towers to go up on that east side of the campus. And that's our Q&A. Do you have any questions for me? Ruben's got some fun facts for you here to kind of close out the presentation, but any questions from us? Again, the site is very safe. ODIP is in place. We haven't had any lost time accidents or any incidents on the job. Got some good crews on the site. We're very thankful for that. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. So how much money is this, these issues of what we found under the ground adding to the project, the removal of the LP tanks and bringing fill in?
So as of right now, we have exceeded 2,000 yards of unsuitable soils that had to be removed. We had an allowance in there, so we kind of anticipated a little bit of that. So we had an allowance of about 1,000 yards of unsuitable soils. To date, the impact is just under $100,000, but it has not increased the budget. When we bid the project out, and we'll get into that in detail, we've been able to see some cost savings on the other bids, so we haven't touched the contingency, or we're not proposing to touch the contingency. Now, we're not out of the woods yet. We're still digging. We'll probably still find some more goodies. The way that we're tracking it to make sure that we're effectively removing things the way we should. We have a soils engineer that's observing those elements, recommendations of what should be removed and what should be replaced. Obviously, compaction tests and all the testing is being done, but we are tracking everything that's being removed and replaced so that it's compliant with any additional costs that's there. But great question. Anything else? All right, fun facts.
Thank you. So because I know that it's difficult to see progress up to this point, when you come to the meeting today, everything is pretty flat outside. There isn't much that's coming out of the ground. And so just to give us all an opportunity to, I guess, create a mental picture of how much work has taken place, as of right now today, there are approximately 1,200 cubic yards of concrete in the ground already. Now, most of us are familiar with sidewalks. So if we just picture how many yards of concrete 1,200 would be in sidewalk language. A 5 foot wide sidewalk, about 4 inches thick, would be about 20,000 feet long, nearly 4 miles. That's a lot of concrete, that's a lot of sidewalk. The reinforcement that goes into the concrete that's poured outside, as of today, there are about 180 tons of rebar already in the concrete in the ground. That's 360,000 pounds. Now, there's some smaller rebar, 1/2-inch rebar. A lot of us have seen that in stores or in work that we've seen maybe residentially. We have some bigger rebar out here, some 1/2-inch, some 1 inch. And so if we just go in the middle and say 3/4 rebar, if we wanted to convert that into how much is actually on site, that'd be about 240,000 feet or 45 miles of rebar already in the concrete, already in the ground. So just to imagine that, if you will, although it doesn't look like there's a lot out there because everything is basically in the ground, there's a lot of work being done.
Thank you, Ruben. Thank you. Any questions? All right. Our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, March 21st, same place, same time. Hopefully, Chair Plummer will be back. We'll call this meeting adjourned at 10:29 a.m. Under now.